Recorded July 21st, 2025. Good afternoon, Franklin. Good afternoon, Brody. How are you doing?
Good afternoon.
That's all right. Franklin, why is your studio always dark, or studio supposed to be dark?
You know, I've been trying to rearrange it, so I'll get it set up at some point. I have the dark.
And you have a mute button that's extremely powerful.
We lost Frank. Oh no.
Oh, man down, podcaster down.
Podcast down. It's all right. I'll fill dead air. I learned how to do this when I worked at call centers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing great, Edward. We got a lot of rain this last few days, which is rare for July here. And my lawn and backyard are looking glorious thanks to all this free water from the sky. Rain's quite the thing.
Rain is good stuff. Yeah. I mean, but often the things that are free cost the most, bro. You remember that. Mm-hmm. Free rain here.
Free rain.
No pun intended. Free rain.
Yeah, we've had bad wildfires across the country, and luckily out west we've been spared the worst of it this year. But there's been I think 2 years ago we could barely go outside at this point in the year. So I'll take rain. It's all good. Yeah, man.
Yeah, we get pretty decent amount of rain even in the dry months here in Georgia, in north of Atlanta. But our rain often encompasses huge thunderstorm, tree dancing, limbo tree causing thunderstorms when the trees are laying back to the ground, right?
Yeah.
My lawn's not too shabby either. It's nice and lush.
Good.
I just saw a little thing going through the lawn. You just see the little ripples, and a bird walked up out of the lawn. That's how deep and plush it is. A bird literally came on my
Damn.
He came out and didn't run. So, Frank back to the stage.
Yeah, I lost. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It was weird because when I went back out to the green screen and then came back in, the mic wasn't working anymore. So,
that
was very weird.
Gremlins.
After 12, worse than a gremlin. So it is Monday. It's one of those odd times in the big house over at MSFT, whereas we're 3 weeks into the new year, it seems like, and so everybody started getting their marching assignments and everything. See that Rod chimed in a little bit. What's up, Rod? And we got Steven. Steven says,
I've been watching his YouTube channel. He's been putting out a lot of dad jokes on his YouTube channel. So
nice.
You are not out there on Rod Trent's YouTube channel.
Yeah, we started doing it on the show here. I didn't think it would take. We need to start doing dad jokes, right? There's some good ones. Make you think. Good dad jokes. Franklin, what did you break this week? Last week? Because this week just started.
I'm spending probably about 80% of my time right now dealing with AI. Not specifically the Microsoft security AI related, but actually developing AI applications and everything around that, so I can get to know that in much more detail and how customers plan to use that and so on. So it's very, in some ways it's cool. In some ways it's, why am I learning to code this?
Yeah.
There's a reason to learn how to code it. So I understand the architecture of it, and I'll look at how to attack it. I spend probably a few hours a day, doing my prompt engineering stuff and finding problems with that. And so I'm really just nowadays living in the AI world, and then I'll go back and apply security to that, just like most projects do the project and apply security, that sort of thing.
That seems to be the way that it all was, delivered and secured. But you can't do that now. It's SFI, right? I haven't done too much either. I had to take care of some personal stuff last week, so I was sort of out for 3 days. Oddly enough, I did not come and was completely underwater. I did do something dumb. I left my car keys in a hotel in Minnesota, so I'm trying to call them to find my key fob.
That sounds like a song.
Yeah, I left my car keys in the hotel in Minnesota.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bluegrass
too. I'll get them back. I think they're going to find them. What are you going to do? Take my keys, drive to Georgia to steal a car and drive back?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it was annoying because I didn't realize I didn't have it until I got to my car at the airport. Tried to use my app to crank the car up and drive home. Hopefully there was a security gap in there, but obviously that app was remote stuff to do. The minute you get into the car and crank it up with the app, you put your foot on the brake, turns the car off. Makes sense though, right? So I take an Uber home because I didn't want my wife driving an hour or so trying to come get me. I get home, I get up. I said, you know what? No big deal. Got to be more cognizant there. Don't pay attention when you're packing up. So
I forget something every day, man. It's all good.
Yeah, my spare key fob. Right, I'm going somewhere with this. Take an Uber back to the airport first thing this morning, so I can get back home and make my first meeting at 9 o'clock. So I get an Uber, schedule. They show up on time to get me there. I walk up to the van. I walk up to my SUV. The batteries in the things are dead. I haven't used this thing in 2 years, so the battery to keep off this. So I can't get in the truck again. So now I'm sitting here and I'm like, walk into the airport, go buy a battery, put it in there. So I go into the airport. There are no electronic shops. Like, we don't have that stuff. You could catch a train outside the airport and go to like a Walmart or something and buy one and come back. I'm like, the world hates me. It hates me. So I said, what? Then I said, okay, what would MacGyver do? MacGyver would improvise. So the person that displaced the innovation is not being very helpful. Matter of fact, she seems very annoyed that I think that me not having a battery in my key fob is her problem. So left it alone. And I was getting ready to call my best friend who lived not too far, saying, I need you to run by this and get a battery for me. And I said, well, hold on. So I looked at the wall and they had an Apple AirTag. In my brain, having useless information, I happen to know or remember that that same battery type is used in my key fob. So I bought an Apple iTag, cracked it open, took the battery out, put it in my key fob, turned it on, opened my truck, and drove home. And I needed an Apple tag anyway, right? So the day
to put on your key fob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Put it on the key fob, right? Man, I had so many reasons to be aggravated today. I just like, do not be that way. Just go ahead and get through the day. I did do something. Let's talk about a little bit of tech before we go. Yesterday, day before, at least yesterday, 0-day exploit, SharePoint on premise seems to be a big deal. You guys getting any feedback, any fallout from it, any at all?
I'm a part of the Cyber Alberta group for our province, and that went out on Sunday. And yeah, that's a big deal. I don't have anything more like the CVs kind of spell it out pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Exposed on-prem SharePoint. I mean, this is just basically exposed on-prem Exchange 2.0, right? I mean, it's just another kind of move your blank to the cloud wherever possible, or don't expose it in the ways that you have in the past. And yes, I'm totally biased because I work at Microsoft, but I mean, you got to expect these things, moving forward with on-prem crawl operation services. So it's serious, and I hope people are patching, and I hope they're taking the warning seriously.
Yeah, and it was patched in a previous patch Tuesday or patch whenever, and those who, for whatever operational constraints, did not patch. Crazy part about it, I have a peer in the field who they have a very substantial SharePoint on-premise, and they were not impacted as of yet. So they were doing it. He believes, can't mention the customer name. He believes because of the way that they proxy traffic for some reason that it would have probably been difficult, or it would have tipped off something. They don't allow anything directly to go out. So he's like, we would have saw it beyond even having an IOC, because it would have appeared outside of any of their normal traffic patterns, stuff like that. Some of the suspicious post commands. But they were on it to make sure that they weren't exposed and make sure they were fully patched. But interesting. I think the last count they were putting out at I can't think of IOCs.ia or something like that. They were somewhere between 85 and 100 servers that reported in as breached. So how they got those numbers, I don't know, but who knows? Patch people. Patch is your number one defense. That's easy. It's low hanging fruit. I can't say that. I don't know what your operational requirements, patching, change control may be, but if you can patch. So, and then I thought I was a victim of it because my domain controller in my lab downstairs had the blue screen of death and had a critical component error. When you look that up with AI tool of your choice, it says that generally it's a corrupt sector in the kernel, OS kernel, or indication of malware that's trying to execute something.
Are you running SharePoint on your domain controller, Edward? Okay, good.
I think I updated the MDI sensor on this domain control before I decommission it and go to the most current server class OSs. And I think I did something with that. I'm not really sure, but what I did do, it had happened before. I just thought it was a nuance. So what I did was I unplugged it from the internet, and then I rebooted and brought it up, and I timed it from the time that I brought it up to the time that it blue screened. So it's done it multiple times to see if it was trying to call back and something create an execution, then it didn't in the blue screen. But it was consistent in that.
Edward, you need to retire that small business server at some point.
Yeah, that's not happening. I'm gonna keep running. SBS, baby. SBS 2003. I'm gonna keep running it. That box is so beat up. There's no telling. I think I have IDE drives in it, so I may need to go ahead and put it out the pasture and redo it. I don't, it was odd. I did some research, looked it up, started pulling out my FOR 508 skills from the SANS course, started looking around to make sure. Because if it was a compromise, I wanted to capture the artifacts and take a look. Why did someone decide to want to get in on my stuff and do these things? And obviously you would, want to go for domain domination, but it's rare that you land on the domain controller. I'm trying to look, is it somewhere else in my home network, the lateral movement? So I started looking for other things. There was no Azure Hound running, no Mimikatz, no Cobalt Strike, nothing of the tools that would have flagged any of the MDE stuff. But you can't live off.
How would you know that Mimikatz was not running? Or Meterpreter? How would you know that Meterpreter is not running?
Well, I can go look at my scheduled tasks and look at any execution of files from non-comment or system folders, right? Don't be running stuff that's not should be running in system 32 folder, right? I can look at the app cache file to be able to see the history of executed commands, things along that line. I also brought up Task Manager and look at the PIDs to see if there were any different processes that were going and that were trying to masquerade like Explorer.
Why is Brody dancing around? What's the deal?
I'm just waiting for the SharePoint story to end. That's all. I'm just.
Oh, well, we're at that time. So
you guys want to rehash the entire sales course, but
we will have a show about incident response. But hey, we have a guest who's in the. I'm sure if I had Purview would have caught it. No, I'm making up stuff. So let's get our guest in. We'll have a show about incident response, Frank. It's been a while. Now I know that's your forte. So let's Noodle said I hit the process in the DLL. Sure you did, Noodle. Sure you did. Hey, what's up?
Hi, Ali. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, everyone. I am good. Brody, how do I become a professional backyard fun developer?
You purchase Little Tykes swings and slides for your 1-year-old, and you watch her go to town. It is adorable. Yeah, it is adorable. Yeah.
And they get older, you get the full backyard set. You'll get to the full backyard set, Yeah.
It's like, it's the plastic moldings that they have for these things are just so perfect now. It's like you basically just pull it out of the box and it's constructed. It's great. But yeah, making the backyard fun for my kiddo is awesome. Yeah. But like super quick, we definitely have I learned a lesson about hydrostatic pressure this weekend during heavy rain. Mm-hmm. And that basically means don't shove a bunch of like high fine particles between your fence line and the neighbor's fence line if it's a retaining wall, because that will cause pressure to build up and then push the wall away from your yard. And I'm like, oh crap, this was a major design flaw in my little girl's play pad. And so basically, like in an emergency, I went and I shoveled all of it out and I have to deal with it. So anyway, there are downsides to being a professional backyard fun developer, but luckily my house has not slid down the hill. So we're doing okay so far. So that's my story.
I imagine it's only a seasonal job, like being in Canada and all. Like,
well, I'm gonna, we could use the slide in the winter, right? Make sure the landing is soft, right? So it's all good. We could go in the winter too. You just put a jacket on.
As a sled. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Brody put a putting
Get on
green.
there, push the slide down up the hill. That'd be good.
Brody put a putting green back there and talking about it for his daughter. Like, I'm teaching her how to. This is building. This is fun. It's not fun, man.
You know what? I'm gonna build a putting green out of snow. I'm gonna try that this winter.
Teach her how to jump out of. Teach her how to jump out of a helicopter onto a mountain to ski. So that's a start off the slide.
She'll be heli skiing in no time. Yeah, she'll be heli skiing in no time. But I digress. So that's how, Allie. I'll let's talk offline if you want some ideas for your backyard. I've got lessons learned. And Allie, you used to a while back join us as a guest host while we were in Redmond together for our offsite, for our EAG security team's offsite. And now here you are back yet again as a guest, a full-on guest who is responsible for high impact, well orchestrated content that we will all learn a ton from. And so, Allie, like, what have you been working on lately? And like, what do you want to bring to the table for Purview month? And please do an introduction.
Oh, I have to introduce myself?
Yeah, why not? Because you know what? We do an okay job here at the Security Insights show, but we think our guests do the best job. And so we want to give you the opportunity to.
Okay, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Allie Segovia. I am a senior consultant at Microsoft and I focus on security compliance. And honestly, I focus on Purview. That is mostly what I do. For those of you who don't know what Purview is, I'm sure that the very many Purview month podcasts that have been a series here at the Security Insights show will help enlighten you, as well as this one. One thing I do a lot of is defense contractor industry. A lot of those like federal adjacent organizations, I'd like to call them. And doing just a lot of data security and compliance related work for them. Obviously using Microsoft security and compliance tools, which comes down to Purview. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. So nice. Brody has asked me to join as a guest to kind of talk about what I've been up to lately. So
yeah, perfect. And, and last week we had some partners on who were talking about why Purview implementations fail. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I was basically just nodding the whole time, like, yep, don't turn on IRM day one. Yep, include legal. It's just like all the stuff that we've run into in the past. And next week we've got someone from product, and you're a great element to this month because you're coming in from the field, right? And you work in Purview all the time. Like you said, it's in your purview. One of the things we talked about on the side about what's changed, I think, in security engagements for Purview on our team is how now the focus seems to be less we failed an audit or we're actually being proactive for an audit. And now it's serving as more of a AI unblocker mechanism because everybody wants AI, but oh wait, data security, right? And in comes Microsoft, shows you how to achieve both, right? And how to manage that. So I'd love to hear from you, like what that's like these days, because again, Purview has kind of changed in how we approach these engagements from what I mentioned previously to everything AI now. What do you see in your day to day?
Yeah, it's been extremely busy for me as a data security expert, I guess we can say. Although weird calling myself an expert, but I think I might be there, maybe.
We believe.
We cannot avoid the whole AI revolution. We just can't. There's just no dodging it. It's coming. It's happening. There are leaders at companies and organizations who want to be the first to turn things on. They want to be gung-ho. We're going to use AI. We're going to, save a bunch of money. We're going to optimize so many processes with AI. We're going to be so much more efficient. And they want to turn it on no matter what. And that's kind of where it gets a little shaky. So one thing that I have been noticing a lot with my projects and delivery engagements is that AI is really exposing those organizations who have not done the data security legwork that they should have been doing over the past, let's say, 5 to 7 years or so, right? It is
Right.
evident who has not put in the work that they should have been putting in this whole time, doing this data security stuff. And that could be like, anything from rights management to just classification, to even governance, because the thing is, like, we can turn on AI, and we have seen organizations turn on something like Copilot. And I'm not talking about like large language models AI. I'm really talking specifically about Copilot and using Copilot in your enterprise scenario where you can actually access all your enterprise data and documents with Copilot. That's really kind of what my focus is. But you can turn on AI, but you still need to govern how people use it. And I have one really good example of that. So I've worked with a kind of healthcare organization, and they want to turn on AI, and they ask, "Oh, is Copilot HIPAA compliant?" And Copilot offers the data protections needed to be HIPAA compliant, but are your employees allowed to use Copilot to gather patient health information? That's a business decision that you need to make, and you need to determine whether it's compliant or not, because yes, you may be accessing one person's patient records that you should be accessing, but if you're using Copilot now to aggregate a bunch of patient information, that's not necessarily HIPAA compliant.
Right.
So while Copilot, as the environment is defined, is something that is safe and secure, you should still not be using it for those kinds of things, right?
Very good point.
So yes, the data is protected. The data is in, the equivalent of SharePoint and OneDrive. If data's in SharePoint and OneDrive, it's, compliant or whatever. And that's just where Copilot is getting data from. But it's also how you're using Copilot, whether it's allowed or not, and can be further governed or not. And that's where you see cases that like organizations may want to block Copilot from actually processing that kind of data, right? So we're running into a lot of fun and interesting use cases with these kinds of deployments with Copilot now.
Very cool, Ali.
And it's how you gather information makes it a totally different case. Meaning, if you gather a bunch of information and put it into a repository that may have been HIPAA compliant or HIPAA,
well, like let's say I'm a nurse, right? And if I'm treating a patient, I'm only supposed to look up that patient's data. I'm not supposed to look up the patient next door. You know what I mean? So me as a nurse looking up a patient's data that doesn't belong to me as a patient is technically a HIPAA violation, because that's not my patient. So if you have Copilot aggregating multiple patients and a nurse saying, hey, like find out this, this, and this, and it's going to return patient information that isn't my patient's, that ends up being a HIPAA violation there.
And I think that's something that people don't really think about, because if I was a nurse and I was using Copilot and I noticed a mistake in a record and Copilot helped me fix it, my natural inclination was, I wonder if he can help me find other records that may have the same mistake so that we can go back and fix the files. All good natured, right? I want to fix this administrative, FUPA in billing so that we don't have this happen again. And now you've created a pseudo HIPAA, incident, right? But that's crazy. I mean, because access is just, you run. How can you not have access? It's the thing. I mean, you just have, you dealing with so many different patients, cross-referencing, and I want to open this can of worms. You're talking about medical research and how all the other stuff you have to go do to be able to do that, right? Yeah. Finance, I think people are super fixated on finance because that's a deliberate means to exploitation of knowledge for betterment, like insider trading, right? I wouldn't really think about a whole lot with medical stuff unless it's just identity stealing and medical record stealing. But good point.
Yeah, but not even looking at malicious use cases where people are actually trying to do bad things. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of, like, and it comes down to access, like you said. You know how there's that share option from OneDrive when you go share with everyone in the organization or copy the link and everyone in your organization can see it? That is the biggest thing with Copilot, because you have links out there that, whereas, and it used to happen with, honestly, the old SharePoint search. There was an old SharePoint search that was like work search, right? I used to use SharePoint search and find all sorts of things that I probably shouldn't have access to.
Same.
And the same happens with Copilot, because it's pretty much the same search engine in the back of it, right? The same happens with Copilot, where if you have access to it, it's going to show it to you. So what happens is that Copilot has kind of exposed your poor SharePoint access hygiene or SharePoint permission hygiene. And also, your average end users creating those shareable links, they don't realize someone can find that with Copilot or with SharePoint Work Search. Right. So they willy-nilly create these links because it is easier. It's so much easier to hit copy link so that everyone has access instead of going and sending it to the correct person that you're actually wanting to send it to, or the correct 3 people. It's just a lot easier to copy the link and share it the correct way. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too, which, by the way, there's a process in which you could go review all of your own shared links, which I have done because I'm way too paranoid working in this space and all the links I've shared out in the past before I've been maybe more enlightened. But that's another big one. And we try to explain to our to these organizations that we work with, well, you could get a ton of bang for your buck if you clean up SharePoint permissions and just make sure that SharePoint permissions are accurate. And it sucks because SharePoint is, kind of a decentralized access permissioning thing now, instead of like a centralized kind of who has access to what. So it ends up being this whole effort where we have to ask site owners to review their own content and review their own permissions in order to clean that up, so that Copilot, or so that the average user using Copilot, if they shouldn't have access to it, they won't see it.
Right. Edward?
I wrote down that note, like, go back and review all of your shared links. Not part of the show. I love to know how to do that in mass, but I'm like, oh my God, you're right. We just share stuff up. I got something I have to share with Frank years ago, and I can still see that he has access to it. I'm like, why did I not like turn that off? Right. But
Ali told me there's a new report, and she told me like 2 weeks ago. I think it just came GA recently, and so maybe we could drop that in the show notes. We'll find that.
If you have that,
because run it. Everybody listening should run this access report against their OneDrive. It's very enlightening. You're like, oh,
let me ask something a little bit more administrative around the power of Purview and or the power of how SharePoint works. If it's too in depth, is it possible for SharePoint online admin to go in and revoke everybody's shared links? Meaning, I can go to my org and say, I don't care who it is. If you share the link, I've unshared all your links to everybody you have. Is that possible? Maybe. If not, we'll use Copilot to find out.
Yeah.
The expiry time.
It's possible in a manual process, but I don't think there's a quick way to do it. Maybe you could script it.
Yeah.
There's not a one button to do that, but you can definitely see everything is shared and manually deal with that.
Yeah.
Because I would think, and Alan, tell me if I'm wrong, is that one of the things that you do when you come in and look at the sharing policies when you start doing your data protection and all your stuff inside your Purview and or data protection engagements?
Yeah, absolutely. Sharing is kind of the easy thing to look at.
Mhm.
And what I like to call it reactive. So that's the reactive way of locking things down and making sure things are a little bit more secure.
Mhm.
The proactive way to kind of fix oversharing and to fix data security in general, especially when it comes to AI, is going through Purview, right? And actually implementing a data classification standard, implementing data classification labels, teaching the whole organization to use those labels appropriately, and then actually be able to lock down what needs to be locked down with encryption, right? Or rights management. So that's kind of the proactive stuff that people have been ignoring, or, the stuff that you can tell people have been ignoring at their organizations for some time.
Mhm.
That just shows that their AI readiness is not there. And it's funny because I've been, involved in a project where they wanted to turn on AI and realize their investment, right? Because it is a big investment to buy Copilot licenses, and they turned it on. And then someone found, someone's pay stub information that they had shared out to the whole organization. And that one person had to have shared, everyone in this organization can view the link, or maybe he was trying to share it to his personal account or share his W-2. I don't, one of those situations that thing is now floating out there that everyone has access to it.
Mhm.
They've always had access to it, but Copilot has now revealed or made it easy to find it, right? Because nobody knew they had access to it before.
This is similar to Delve, which recently
You
retired.
read my mind. You
Yeah.
right there. You're like Dell used to put out there like, do people know what they have out here now? And
Do you deal with Azure storage at all?
No, I don't actually. So like the Azure Purview side of everything is something I don't do a lot in, but the same concepts apply as far as like data classification and tagging and locking things down with rights management. But I don't play in Azure Purview as much as M365. So I guess we could say I mostly deal with unstructured data.
Right. Yeah. On the security team that Ali and I are a part of, they kind of delineate when it comes to structured data, Purview related items. And so it would be a data and AI consultant that traditionally over the past few years would work with customers on more structured data projects, engagements, etc. And they'd have somebody like Ali and I helping with defining what that labeling taxonomy is and defining the guardrails, but then the actual work that goes into securing structured data sets would kind of fall into a different kind of consulting. It's a whole different ball game.
What about just blob storage files and Azure storage, Azure files?
Yeah, so that would be unstructured on Azure file stores, not structured data sets. Right, Frank? Do I got that right?
Wait a minute. I'm confused. So, Ali, you are working with more of structured data or unstructured data?
Unstructured.
And unstructured is classified as 365 data or data in Azure storage?
365 data. So Azure Azure storage is kind of like the equivalent of an S3 bucket, right? Okay. So we can put policies that will look at the Azure storage URL and do things like prevent uploading to it based on sensitive information or things like that. But there's nothing that actually looks at the data in Azure storage. At least that I know of.
Does Copilot look out at at Azure blob storage or Azure files like it does SharePoint?
No,
I don't think it does.
Interesting.
I think you could probably go in and create something, because when you in Azure AI, so many AIs now. you could probably go do that. But I'm wondering if you got it in there. And Brody probably know this better. Could you tag metadata inside that storage to say? But when you look at it that way, let's take it back. That really doesn't. That's diminishing returns, right? I think when you put stuff in storage in Azure, you're just looking for the cheapest amount of spin you can get and throw that stuff in there, right? And you transform it as you need to get out. But when you totally blew my mind when you said that 365 is unstructured data. To me, I would have thought that would be structured data. It's Word, it's OneNote, it's Excel. It seems very structured to me. And I thought,
data is more like databases and tables.
Yeah, so SC400, one of the reasons why they made the changes was, for one, they got rid of stuff that was pushed in from the MS500 retirement that got shoved into SC400. They stripped that out, but there was always a separation between unstructured, which was your compliance Purview side, and then they came out with Azure Purview, which was more for the data side. That's now within inside the Purview portal, and so that's why that sort of content's being put into the SC401 course, because now people that have originally been dealing, because Azure Purview took advantage of all the classification configurations that were in place for M365. So that's why that's all now kind of going into Purview. The Azure Purview is now being sucked into there, and a lot of other things are going in there now. So a lot of people that were just unstructured before are now going to have to deal with a structured side or database side.
Well, in the database side, we can make a whole different topic about that too.
That's worthy of its own show, Frank.
Yeah,
great points, Frank.
Yeah, my biggest thing is the reason I asked that question is because now with my new role and the way I'm looking at it, I have a responsibility around Purview, but it's specifically called out Azure Purview because of the ACR component, not the unstructured, right? So I just been asked that question, like, okay, what's the difference? But I'm seeing, how I judge how if a particular technology is the thing, just go look at all the job postings. If you just put Purview a little bit in any of your CV and everything, you're getting these phone calls, right? And it's just you're starting to see this as the market leader in the way you're going about your data observation, protection, and reporting on it, right? And it's hard. I would have thought that would have been one of my career paths because I was an MCAS guy, and AIP was the cousin of MCAS, right? They were cousins. you did it. Now you never know. So when with all the announcements and stuff that are coming out, where's the balance? Just you, this is personality. Where's the balance between learning what's necessary to do your job versus what you have to learn everything? Because there's so much announcement coming out. Do you have opportunity to, when a new feature comes out, to maybe a customer can utilize it? Can you even talk about it, or do you just like let them ask and then you'll bring it up when they ask?
That's a good question. Sometimes I'm on like a working session with the customer and new buttons appeared from one day to another. And I'm like, oh, that's new. And I'm just like, I have to figure out what that does. And that's like with the customer. I mean, things change so much every single day, especially in Purview, because it's just such a big investment area of Microsoft to kind of, bring it up to something really, really, really robust. So I'm dealing with new things every day. I try my hardest to keep up. Well, I'm actually really good about email. I read all of my emails, even if they're like
quote
announcements kind of things. And then I have this reading list. So I'll read the email, and any new announcements or things that are relevant to like the kind of work that I do with my customers, I'll bookmark the links and I'll save it and I'll put on my reading list. And honestly, sometimes at night when I'm watching whatever guilty pleasure TV, I will just be scrolling on my phone reading what I need to catch up on. And that's just to keep up, because like the new features and new things coming out all the time. Sometimes my customers ask me about it. I sometimes bring things up if I know it's going to be beneficial to them. right? Sometimes we're in the middle of an engagement and things are, oh, I wish we had this or I wish we had that. And then I hear something that like helps with this kind of wish list that the customer has, and I'll copy what I can, what's allowed to copy, and send it to them and say, hey, do you want help with this? That kind of approach.
All right.
The other thing is on Learn the product documentation. Every single one has a what's new link. So that's the thing to review all the time to say, okay, what there's new things in Purview that have been pointed out to me. I'm like, yeah, I didn't see that. So, and I haven't been out to the what's new in a while to see. I think that the people that are involved with the customer program that Rod's involved with, they kind of know all the stuff coming out. I kind of ignore all that until it's actually in the product documentation because of the learning side.
Yeah,
it's tough to keep up with all of it.
I will admit I haven't. I'm sort of not hating, but missing that crazy stress of what it meant to be a consultant. I mean, you were just one day ahead of the customer. But I can tell you, I was much more efficient. My reading was very distinct. About here's the 5 things that I read that kept me abreast of this and that. And now I'm not nearly as good. There's so much. But when you're a consultant and your knowledge and your ability to be the front runner is your strength, I don't have that muscle anymore. I don't know if I'll get it back. That's hard to do though, right?
It's easy. I'll find out and report back.
I tend to say that, hey, send me what you want me to know before I get there, and let me go do some research, right?
Well, Edward, to your point, then you need to be militant at what you're investing your time in, right? Because like you can't be level 400 in everything. That's a joke for Edward.
Oh no.
It's if I'm working on certain projects, I'm honestly ghosting news about other elements that don't pertain to those projects because I'm really busy deep in those projects and those verticals, and I'm not gonna entertain a random call about MDO or whatever if it's just not prevalent to what I'm doing. And so you're right on the time constraint front. You have to be extremely focused on what's going to make you successul for those customer engagements, and that's it. You don't have time to learn everything.
I just watch Rod Trent's weekly email for everything that's new, and that's all that I worry about.
If Rod wrote about it, I look at it. That's easier said than done, Brody, because in my previous roles at GBB, we're supposed literally in documentation. You're supposed to be level 400 across all these products. We got told that, and my role is gone now for everything. But we just got a slide today. They were talking about you will be level 400, and then there was a lift this here. I'm like, wow, we're hunting unicorns now. So that's what we're doing, right?
And then Ali also services U.S. federal, which doesn't have the same release cycle for all of these features. And so now on top of the release cadence for private sector, she has to deal with the release cadence for U.S. Gov.
I'm going to give her a new title. I'm going to give her PPA. Your new title, Ali, is Product Parity Architect.
Oh, my goodness. That is what I am.
So where are we at with GCC and GCC High and all that fun stuff?
Give us an update.
Yeah, give us an update. PPA, you the new PPA, Product Parity Architect. Matter of fact, I'm going to change your thing to say that. So everybody call Ali. She has all the answers.
Yeah,
GCC High, Gov, Cloud, Commercial. She knows it all.
Yeah, it's weird because GCC High ends up being like the redheaded stepchild, and like people forget to implement features in GCC High. And then I find them and I have to go ask about them and then like wait for a response. And like, it's GCC High is weird, but honestly, the best part about working in GCC High is that I have really immersed myself in Microsoft, in networking. And I know just so many product managers. I know exactly who to go to for what at this point, after 4 years of doing this. I know everybody. I know everybody who takes me seriously, who's going to respond to my message and who's going to, take my issues seriously, because that's also a little difficult here. Because, you never know if you're doing something wrong or if there's something wrong with the product, and it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes. So I'm grateful because I've been like thrust into this into this situation with GCC High, but it's caused me to learn so much faster and to be really resourceful internally at Microsoft.
Yeah, no doubt. The networking part that you just talked about is essential, right? And I've been leading a number of engagements lately, and I haven't been deep into the weeds on like something tech wise, and those relationships have gotten a bit stale on my end, and that's a really good call out, because one of the things that Microsoft's consulting services arm is sold on is that direct integration between the field and product. But you need to make sure you foster those relationships. Like if Ali suddenly starts asking like basic questions to product people, ignore, right? Like you got to find your people, and you got to know when to leverage your people, right? And like only contact them if it's legit, right? Because everybody's busy, right? It's a busy company. So that's essential. That's why Ali's one of the best we got.
Yeah, I'm sitting trying to spell something. Godly, even spell checks.
You
like
can't
God,
spell, Edward. Just give up.
Look at that. I said God dress. That's how bad I am. I didn't even try to edit my terrible editing skills. I'm gonna put goddess.
So Ali, I pinged you the other day, and you're just about to go on vacation, and I'm like, hey, I got a customer, and they want to know how to do a data assessment for agentic AI, not just for Copilot, but for agentic AI broadly. And Ali was like basically offline. Might just get back to me tomorrow. She's like, I'm actually on vacation, but I was spitballing with her, and we were going over the definition of agentic, right? And like separating the Microsoft Kool-Aid, what we've been told, versus the industry definition of agentic, and trying to figure out like what's different about doing a data assessment for agentic AI versus AI versus just a broad data assessment in general. And the one thing that we both got interested on was the fact that agentic is defined as semi-autonomous, right? So it's not just the end user interacting with, let's say, Copilot to retrieve data, and Copilot has its access in order to give you the data, and that all depends on your access rights and blah, 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 blah. But now we've got agentic AI, which is going to be taking that follow-up step and potentially just working with another AI on your behalf before you're back in the loop checking on it. And so now it's really validating every step of the way, like what these agentic AI solutions have access to, right? What should they be telling their agentic partner back and forth? Maybe they have one has more access than the other. Like what needs to be shared? What do I report back to the end user? And this is pretty new, and we don't have. I don't think we've got like an official pattern for it yet, because it's being developed as we speak. But we were just really just brainstorming about the differences and how this is evolving, because we're not at full like generative AI yet, right? We're not at fully autonomous yet, but we're making strides to get there. And it's just interesting how the data assessment journey will evolve as these systems become more and more autonomous.
So I mean, that's the world I'm living in right now. So you have to take a look at what Entra's doing, whether service IDs or service principals, and what context it's running under, and what's being shared. But that's the world that I'm living under. And of course, you have the MCP server and so on.
Yeah, good point, Frank. Yeah, it's all about the access and where is that access being controlled from, and how are we protecting those identities, secrets, etc., key vault, everything.
They got rid of the intra permission, whatever side.
They did. Yeah, I think they shelved it, and they're working with a partner now. It's probably just wasn't used as much. But that's an interesting one.
I can tell you that group was difficult to work with and probably overpriced as a product. But yeah, I think that's going to be they send that away at a time when it's probably going to be most critical for exactly what you're talking about.
Right, exactly. Yeah, non-human accounts are the most important they've ever been right now because of this AI revolution. What were you going to say, Ali? Sorry.
Well, I was kind of going to say, like, going back to the whole Purview thing, and why Purview implementations fail, and going back to AI readiness, is that a lot of times, like, these organizations are hesitant because they see this big giant thing they need to bite off, and it's not enough. It's too much, right? It's too many decisions all at once, too much work all at once, and they don't prioritize it enough to do it. But like, honestly, it's with everything in life. Like, you just have to start,
Great advice.
And like, if you want to start a podcast, just start. Don't wait for the fancy microphone and the fancy webcam and the fancy this and the fancy that. Like, just start the podcast. Are you guys laughing because that's so relatable?
Yeah, I've been hassling Edward on his microphone for like the better part of a year now. And it's just
Oh my
hilarious. Yeah.
You just have to start and be consistent and just go through the process and just do it. It's like the Nike slogan is such a real thing. Just do it. And just start, and it'll come together. But you can't just ignore what's happening with the AI revolution. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be okay," and just ignore it. You have to do something about it.
The storm won't pass you by. It will not. And I love when Brody gets a good night sleep because he has these big brain moments. So as he was talking, I'm like, man, that's a startup right there. That's a startup idea. Whereas you bring in agents to police other agents. Don't use your own. I come in with a product and I'm going to do an audit of how your agents are doing in that. And I drop my agent overlay into that. And I'm thinking maybe create a B2B tenant next door to it, give it guest access and say, I'm going to go monitor what your agents are doing using my agent, right? So there's no repudiation, right? Because agents, they collude. They don't mean to. But that's a good idea, bro. That's a startup idea right there.
Thank you. Honestly, I was really excited to scope that project. And then I started going down this rabbit hole and I spent hours and hours going into it. And all of the, to Frank's point, the more Azure infrastructure and identity related aspects of this when it comes to agentic AI. And then the architect on the product comes back like, yeah, they actually just want to do an M365 data assessment. I'm like, okay, well, that's way lamer, and we've done a billion of those. So I'll just put all of this research that I've just done to the side. And we're probably going to have to come up with, a really official way of addressing this, which is different from just standard data assessments. But yeah, Edward, I mean, it's very cool. It's very cool time.
It's definitely being considered, but the technology for dealing with the agents is changing. So you also have to deal with the fact that it's a moving target. But I'm sure that Microsoft's taking this into consideration.
I'm sure that all the other entities are taking it because you're going to start seeing stuff where you got to be very careful about putting out a service to police other services when you go, well, who's going to police you? All right. You're going to say you're not the standard. Nobody's the standard yet. You could Forrester and Gartner, they can talk. They're still not a front runner yet. Right. We're a front runner when you're talking about revenue and the amount of seats and that. But when you think about what technology has pulled itself so far in front of everybody else that is taking off, that still hasn't happened yet. Copilot, Grok, Claude, Jeep, nobody's pulled out yet, right? They're still in the race, and they're within striking distance. I think Microsoft has a distinct advantage because they own the OS, right? And the email. Who would have thunk it? Email would have been the key to owning the kingdom, right?
Well, it comes back to Exchange. Yeah.
It comes back to Exchange. Comes back to Exchange, right? And you go that right on Microsoft Mail.
Yeah. They have some attack frameworks that are not official yet. Like MITRE has Atlas for AI, right? But there's some frameworks for agentic AI that I learned about in this research, and I'm just trying to find them. I think I closed the tab because I get 150 tabs open, and I wonder why my laptop's slow. But like, it's a whole nother element of threat modeling against a different type of AI system, and now semi-autonomous system, and where the human in the loop is, right? Because to your point, Edward, if we have agents working with agents, and you have an agent overseeing those agents, someone's got to check their work, right? This can't just be 3 clones of Agent Smith and, oh yeah, everything's fine, Neo, it's all good. Go chill out with Trinity on the beach, no problem, right? Like, we got to have some human oversight here at one point, right?
And you have to insert, I believe you have to insert deliberate violations of what you're looking for. Give me an example. I think that last week they were talking about negative detection, whatever, meaning you missed it. And I think I put in there as the audit. False negative detection equals audit. False negative detection is we missed it. Yeah. And then an audit found it like, oh, crap.
So, Ali, what are you most excited about with Purview?
Oh, great question.
I
Like an
Going
ass.
back with the hard-hitting questions. I love this. Go, Ali. Yeah.
One of the things that I love most about working at Microsoft is that I like to say Microsoft plays nice with everyone. In the sense that like all of our tools can integrate with pretty much our competitors, you know? So everything that you do in your M365 and Azure environment, security wise, and let's say data security wise, because we also have, you know, connections into Google Cloud, into G Drive, into Box, into all these other, you know, cloud storage solutions. All of that you do in Microsoft stuff can be shared out with all of the other tools that you're using at the organization. And like Zoom, for example, and you can govern and secure all these different apps and all these different tools that you use. And that's been coming to Purview, basically. So things are just getting a lot easier and a lot more, you know, able to set up outside of Microsoft with the same kind of security and compliance governance that you have inside of Microsoft. So I love that. I think it's great. It basically leaves you no excuse to do it, right?
Let me ask this question to the panel. Because of the huge surges, and even Microsoft with Purview and the other competing products that are out there, and I can't name them all off, have we conceded that breach and access is just going to happen? And now you just need to make sure you can protect your data and know where it is. So no longer the protection of the data from physical access is a thing, to understand how it's being used. But Frank, what are your thoughts on that? Meaning you are going to get compromised and your data is going to be exposed in a manner that it shouldn't. In a combination of Purview and encryption, do you sort of mediate that right there? Have we given up on trying to keep the bad guys out?
So I this is the thing about being a part-time CISO and explaining this to organizations. I look at this like American football, okay? And that, you know, the attackers are going to come in, they're going to get a first down, right? And they're going to drive the ball down the field. My goal is to make sure that they don't score a touchdown and get points, right? So don't get upset if they get a first down, because they're going to do it. And you have to adjust your playbooks to actually, you know, make sure that you can stop them from getting the first downs. So I think that people have to understand that, hey, okay, we're going to put encryption here. So if they get this far down the field, we can stop them. Right, and you're going to have to pay some dollars to have the defense and the updating of playbooks and how you're going to do that. You know, unfortunately, a lot of businesses out there, a pee-wee football team could run through their defenses and score. You know, so we want to make sure that the executives understand that that's what's going to be taking place. You know, the attackers are going to get first downs and drive down there. How do we make sure that they don't reach their goal, whatever their goal might be, which could be ransomware, it could be stealing data, whatever those goals or that risk might be for their organization. So I think that that's the thing that people have to understand.
I love the question and I love the analogy. I got to say, guys, that's perfect. Right. When Ali and I were kind of turning into like some of the Purview go-tos on our team, there was like 3 to 5 of us, and it was like, you're the Purview people, you know. I would love having arguments with people about like how important the data security aspect is in the whole zero trust, you know, framework. And I love Frank's analogy here. Like, they're going to get in if we're having an assume breach mindset. Then really the last layer of defense for your data, whether that's a ransomware and what's the word I'm looking for, and where they're trying to solicit money from you to get your data back. I can't remember the name of it. Or just taking your data, right? Like, the data pillar is the last line of defense before your data is affected. So you need to spend just as much time harnessing and securing the data element of your digital crown jewels than you are securing your endpoints or securing your network inbound access. And in some cases, I would argue it's in an assumed breach mindset, it's maybe one of the more important things along with identity, because it's the ultimate action in the end, right? You don't go through all that trouble just to hang out and like run solitaire. You've got an objective.
It's the attacker's goal. So there's many different vectors for them to get to that final goal. So if you can focus on the final goal and be able to most likely cut them off, it just makes more sense from a risk management standpoint to to, I mean, obviously do the easy stuff, you know, but to go ahead and secure the data, saw it on over there.
Yeah. You got to make them punt. You know,
And
you're not
one
going to
thing
stop them. You got to make them
also,
punt.
one thing also that I like about, for example, Copilot is that people are going to, AI has become so accessible that people are going to use it anyway, even if they're not allowed to use it. They're going to find a way to use it to make their job easier. So you might as well give them the safe alternative of Copilot in order to do their job. That's the way I see it because, you know, I mean, even I do some things that maybe I shouldn't be doing at Microsoft. Nothing bad, but, you know, sometimes I'm trying to copy paste a couple of things or a demo environment password or something, and you never know where those things end up. So
Well, Copilot just got
imagine the
web search
It's
kind of recently.
it's in your
right?
memory that a hacker can get a hold of. We were copy and paste,
Exactly.
so I can tell you that.
Well, and there's a period of time, and they admitted this at our recent like kickoff for our organization, that there's been gaps between the GPT 4.0 and Copilot, and the internal feedback is, hey, we need more parity. If you want me to use this all the time, I need parity because I want to use the best AI, right? And then you have to take into account, like, obviously, don't copy customer confidential data to a public AI. You got to keep it within your org.
Yeah.
You got to make sure controls are in place to prevent that. But like net, folks, I'm using it every day. I can't like not use AI anymore. But if I notice my primary AI at my company is like doing a worse job than the paid version I have, and I can anonymously get better value out of the paid version I have without breaking any company rules, I'm going to use the best AI at my disposal.
Well,
So I'm with Ali on that.
That goes back to something that I like to say. You heard it on the show first. Is AI envy. Real story. I had a buddy that called me. We only have Copilot for a subset of users, but we found more users that would subscribe. They were going out buying personal subscriptions and tying it to their or UPN. So you have to go inside your 365 thing and say, don't allow this stuff to happen, right? First of all, the big thing was don't allow OAuth consent. Remember that? That was the thing for a while. Now the new thing is you have to prevent people from turning on trials up under your UPN and buying 365 ad hoc and putting it on to their subscription with their work email. So because you didn't give me AI, I got AI in me, and now all my coworkers are running rings around me. What's up with that? Right?
Good point.
Real story I saw last week. And I'm like, is that real? Like, yeah. People saying, if you won't give it to me, I'll buy it. And I'll put it in myself.
Edward, you just gave us the perfect sales pitch to kind of start capping this thing off, because it sounds like you just got to call Microsoft Consulting. You got to call EAG Security. You got to get Ali on your project to come and do your assessment to get your people the AI, right?
Yeah, like, oh, shoot, I can't afford it. I may be able to afford about 15 minutes of her time. I'm going to go deep breath, blah, 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 blah. But hey, Ali, this is super great. We'd love to get you back on because I love hearing thoughts from the field, right? I have to figure it out because I came from the aspect of what was overhyped for a number of years. Not that what my job and what I do is not important. I was very much focused on EDR and endpoint protection and threat protection. That seems to be the thing that's that's the ante to play in. Data protection and the data non-repudiation is the new game. I better learn the new game. Because all the MDR and all the Blue Voyants and all the things that did all the MSSP work, that's old news now. What have you purviewed for me lately? Is what you're seeing right now, and I got to get up on that game. This is good information. AI Indy.
That's a new shirt right there. What have you purviewed lately, or
what have you purviewed lately? You know what? I'll go get it made in a minute. I'll make the shirt. Rod hit me up. I'll get some shirts and I'll get. What have you purviewed lately? I'll probably get sued by Microsoft.
No.
What?
Ali, look, this is awesome. I mean, we got to come back on and give us an update in like 6 months' time, or come on the Christmas show, and let us know how things have evolved, right? Because with agentic getting so big now, and the next new thing is certainly around the corner, I'm sure it's going to be an even different evolution of what we do each and every day in the data security consulting biz. So I really appreciate you coming on talking about everything today. And it's complicated, right? It's complicated and people got to get on it. It sounds like.
It depends.
It depends. Consulting. Love it.
Yeah. You're always welcome to come back on the show as a host and take over the show for a month and run it so we can all take holiday. Just kidding.
I'll run it with you.
Thank you
Ali.
so much. I think that while we had a Purview month in January, July, it may just be an ongoing thing that we get somebody on every month to talk about this, because this is a new thing. And notice you guys haven't heard me say the thing I used to always say. I said it about Sentinel. I said it about Copilot. I said about, you not heard me say it's the new shiny. It's not a flash in the pan. The Purview is the real thing. You can make a career off of it.
I gotta say, I've been to multiple like M365 Copilot sessions that other people are putting on, and security people from other organizations, and it comes up to, hey, how do we track things? How do we secure things or whatever? And they don't have the answer. Drives me crazy. So I just send them on LinkedIn. I send them the link, to Purview every single time that I see them
That's
stumble
funny.
on that.
Oh my gosh, Frank, am I gonna get links now on LinkedIn?
No.
He's gonna start sending me weird documentation.
But if you do, you can bring those to the business as like opportunities, and then you're gonna get, everyone at our management structure is gonna love you, Ali. Like, oh yeah, all these people just came up my LinkedIn through this podcast that I did. No big deal. Here's a couple mil. You're welcome. Where's my bonus?
There you go.
Yeah.
Pinnacle Club. Matter of fact, give me something a little bit about Pinnacle. I make it, super Pinnacle. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us for a continuation of our Purview month. I think we may have another month. I don't think January can encompass all the stuff that is Purview. Alan, thank you so much for coming back on the show. It's good to see you again. Thank you for keeping Brody in check. Yeah. That's a hard job, right? Hard than any Purview engagement. Frank, thanks for being on the show, man. Rod, thanks for checking in. Dean, everybody else, Noodle, thanks for being on the show. We'll be back next week. We have one more show in the month of Purview. I'm looking on that wall calendar because I'm still old school. It occurred to me just through the calendar here. And
you have a calendar in Windows now? Wow.
Who knew? Right? Who knew they had a calculator in Windows? Yeah. We'll continue Purview month next week. We got a really, really super big week coming on to talk about what Purview means as an industry standard, how we're going about making this one of the things that all industries really have to address with their data, whether you're using Purview or anything else. And until next week, peace.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.